Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles. The day before my daughter's wedding, I said, I can't wait to see you get married tomorrow. My wife laughed softly and said, What? The wedding took place yesterday. My daughter showed me her cell phone. It had pictures of everyone there. My wife shrugged. I guess I forgot to tell you, huh? I left them without a word. Ezra Blackwood stands in the spacious living room of his Vancouver home, his hands trembling slightly. His fingertips touched the dark oak bookshelf that he and Vivian had picked out together for their 27th wedding anniversary. Outside the window, the mild sunlight of Canada's west coast peppered through the clouds, but he couldn't feel an ounce of warmth. He had just experienced the cruelest betrayal of his life. Serena, his only daughter, is married, and he, as a father, wasn't even invited to attend. There was no father-daughter dance, no opportunity for speeches, no memories of holding her down the aisle. All these moments that should have been his were stolen from him. What's even more incredible is that it was all orchestrated by his wife, Vivian. She even saw it all as some kind of cruel joke, not hiding the smugness on her face. How could 27 years of marriage end this way? Ezra didn't make a scene. He is a man of great self-control, which is why he has become one of the most respected bridge structural engineers in Vancouver. In the face of the toughest design challenges, he always stays calm, analyzes the problem, and finds a solution. Now he turns that analytical ability to his own broken marriage. He walked into the study, closed the door gently, and sat down in front of the computer. For the first few hours, he just sat, thinking and remembering. His brain processed every detail, every clue of the past few years like a sophisticated computer, trying to understand how it all happened. The next morning, Vivian acts as if yesterday never happened. She was dressed in her favorite gray business suit, ready to head out the door to meet a high-end real estate client. I'll be back late tonight, she said as she put her keys in her handbag. There's an important client who wants to see a property near Stanley Park. Ezra nodded without responding. He watched her leave and then made a decision. He won't be working today. He needed to figure out what was going on. The call from Vancouver's City Engineering Department came through quickly. Hi, is this Rebecca? I'm Ezra Blackwood. I need to call in sick today. He paused. Yes, that's all. Thanks for asking. After hanging up, Ezra begins his investigation. In a world full of digital traces, secrets are hard to hide completely, especially for someone as thoughtful as he is. First, he checked the family's shared cloud account, where years of photos and documents were stored. To his shock, all the wedding-related documents from the past 3 months had been moved to a folder to which he had no access. It wasn't an accident, it was deliberate. He then logged into the family's credit card account. Payments for florists, deposits for banquet halls, catering services, photographers. All of this is clearly documented there. The earliest payments date back 6 months, and he was kept completely in the dark throughout the process. How is that possible? Ezra muttered to himself. We've even discussed wedding plans together before. But the evidence of the facts is right there in front of us and cannot be refuted. Next, he checked the browsing history of his home computer. In an uncleared cache, he found email exchanges between Vivian and a man named Mason Harlow. Most of the content is about our special programs and keep the surprise. At first, Ezra thought it was just about the wedding arrangements, but as he read on, his heart sank. Last night was wonderful. One of the emails read, We need to be careful, but I've arranged it so that Ezra will never know what happened between us. Ezra's fingers stopped on the keyboard. He felt a stabbing pain in his chest, as if someone had stabbed him directly in the heart with a sharp blade. He realized now that this wasn't just a deception about the wedding. It was a betrayal that had been going on for a long time. Upon continuing his search, he found more emails, screenshots of text messages, and even pictures of Mason and Vivian together. Mason Harlow is an architect, a few years younger than Ezra, with a handsome face and a charming smile. According to the email, their affair has been going on for at least 8 months. The most heartbreaking discovery was an email in which Vivian and Mason discussed how to exclude Ezra from Serena's wedding. He's always so focused on his bridges and roads, Vivian writes. He won't even notice that a wedding has taken place. It'll be the perfect revenge for his years of neglecting us. Ezra sat there quietly, feeling like the whole world was falling apart. He wasn't a perfect husband, but he never thought of himself as a workaholic who neglected his family. He attended every one of Serena's soccer games, helped her with her school math homework, and even wept with pride at her college graduation. He and Vivian have celebrated every wedding anniversary together, even during his busiest projects. How could he possibly be described as an aloof, absentee father and husband? As the investigation deepens, an even more twisted truth emerges. Vivian has been quietly distancing Serena from him for the past few years. Subtle comments, slight innuendos, questions about the importance of his work, all of these subtly shape Serena's view of her father. In a text message, Vivian told Mason, "I've convinced Serena that her dad is too busy to be a part of the wedding plans. She has embraced the idea that ruling him out is the best option." That's why Serena has always been vague whenever Ezra has asked about the wedding over the past few months, while Vivian would interject that everything is being planned. He was systematically excluded from the program, which was carried out not only by his wife, but also by his beloved daughter. By early evening, Ezra has gathered enough evidence to prove Vivian's infidelity and deliberate deception of him. His heart felt like it was filled with some cold substance, neither anger nor sadness, but a decided sobriety. When Vivian arrived home, Ezra was sitting at the kitchen table with a glass of whiskey in front of him. He rarely drank, but tonight seemed to be an exception. "Are you okay?" Vivian asked, putting down her handbag, a hint of caution in her tone. "Tell me about Mason Harlow," Ezra said bluntly. Vivian's face turned pale for an instant, but she quickly regained her composure. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Stop lying, Vivian." Ezra's voice was unusually calm. "I've seen the emails, the texts, the photos. All of it. I know your betrayal has been going on for 8 months. I know you guys planned together to exclude me from Serena's wedding. I just want to know why." Vivian stood there, motionless, as if frozen in place. Then, to Ezra's surprise, she smiled, the kind of smile filled with relief and a hint of mockery. "Do you really want to know why, Ezra?" She walked across the table and sat down. "Because I'm tired of being in the background of your life. You were always so involved in your work, those bridges, those buildings. They get all your enthusiasm and creativity, and me? I'm just a facilitating presence, someone who keeps the family running." "That's not true," Ezra retorted. "I never put my job before you or Serena. I attended all her important events, and we celebrated every wedding anniversary together." "Formally, yes," Vivian interrupted. "Your body is present, but your mind is always elsewhere. You know what first attracted me to Mason? He asked my opinion and really listened. He sees me as a person, not just a wife or mother." Ezra felt a wave of vertigo. He has always considered their marriage to be solid and full of mutual understanding and respect. Now it seems that this is just his one-sided view. "What about Serena's wedding?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly with emotion. "Why would you deny me the right to attend my daughter's wedding?" Vivian's eyes turned cold. "Because you don't deserve it. For years, you've considered your work your first priority. You've missed countless opportunities to have dinner with her because you had to work late to finish those important projects. When it was her 17th birthday, you were 2 hours late for the restoration of that damn Lions Gate Bridge. Do you know how disappointed she was?" "That was 10 years ago," Ezra countered. "And I did go, despite the work emergency." "Patterns, Ezra, are patterns," Vivian said coldly. "Little things that add up to big problems. Ultimately, Serena agrees with me that you don't really care about the important moments in her life. It was her decision to exclude you from the wedding, and I just supported her." The lie was so obvious that Ezra almost wanted to laugh. He had seen the texts and emails and knew the truth was the exact opposite. It was Vivian who manipulated Serena, not Serena who made the decision. "So that's your reason? Because you felt neglected, you decided to cheat on me with another man and deny me the right to witness my daughter's marriage." Ezra shook his head. "I thought I knew you, Vivian. Apparently I was wrong. You never really got to know me." Vivian stood up. "That's the problem." She turns and heads upstairs, leaving Ezra sitting alone in the kitchen, facing the reality of a broken marriage and betrayal. Just then, the doorbell rang. Ezra slowly walks to the door and finds Serena standing in the doorway with a troubled look on her face. "Dad?" she said hesitantly. "We need to talk." Ezra lets his daughter in, and the two sit down in the living room. Serena looked even more nervous than usual, and her fingers kept twisting together. "Mom told me you knew about the wedding," she spoke, "and I wanted to explain." "Explain what?" Ezra calmly asks. Explain why my daughter doesn't think her father deserves to be in her wedding. Serena's eyes are full of tears. It's not like that. Mom told me you were too busy to be involved in the wedding plans and that you supported us in streamlining the whole process. She said you were more concerned about your new bridge program and what? And you said big weddings are a waste of time and money. Serena lowered her head. I thought that's what you really thought. Ezra took a deep breath. Serena, I never said anything like that. Every time I've asked about wedding plans over the past 6 months, you and your mom have said that everything is in the works and the timing hasn't been finalized yet. I've been looking forward to the day I hold your hand and walk down the aisle. Serena looks confused. But Mom said, your mom lied to you, just like she lied to me. Ezra interrupted her calmly. She planned it all with her lover Mason. Mason? Serena asked in surprise. You mean the architect who helped us design the wedding venue? Ezra nodded. Yes, that's him. Your mom's affair with him has been going on for 8 months. It was their joint decision to exclude me from your wedding, not yours. Serena sat there in shock, tears sliding down her cheeks. I don't know. I really don't know. Mom told me you agreed to everything. I should have questioned it. I should have just asked you. Ezra looked at his daughter with mixed emotions. Anger, sadness, but most of all a deep sense of loss. He lost the opportunity to be a part of one of the most important moments in his daughter's life, and that can never be made up. What happened has happened, he said finally, and I can't change the past. But I need you to know that no matter what happens, I love you, Serena. I've always loved you, even when your mom tried to make you believe the opposite. Serena threw herself into her father's arms and cried as painfully as she did as a child. I'm sorry, Dad, I really am. Ezra hugged his daughter and patted her back gently. It's not your fault, he reassured. You're a victim too. It was a night of long talks between father and daughter. Serena shares the details of the wedding, the moments that Ezra should have been a part of but missed. Each word was like a knife stabbing into his heart, but he listened quietly, trying to make up for his absence through his daughter's memories. It was close to midnight when Serena finally left. Ezra stood in the doorway and watched his daughter's car pull away, then return to the empty house. Vivian is nowhere to be found and may be seeking solace in Mason. Ezra went into the den and sat down at the computer again. This time, instead of searching for evidence, he began to plan his next move. He knows deep down that he can't undo the damage of the past, but he can make sure those who hurt him pay. He opens a new document titled Reconstruction Plan. As a structural engineer, he knows that sometimes, when a bridge is damaged beyond repair, the only option is to demolish it and start from scratch. His marriage had come to this, and all he needed to do now was to make sure the demolition process was both thorough and efficient. For the next few days, Ezra was completely immersed in his plan. He took a week's vacation and told his coworkers he needed to take care of some personal business. No one questioned the usually hardworking engineer's sudden request for a vacation. Vivian is hardly ever home, which gives Ezra plenty of space and time to gather more evidence and formulate his plan. He hires a private investigator to track Vivian and Mason's activities and document their whereabouts. He also consulted with a divorce lawyer to learn about his legal rights and possible property division options in British Columbia, Canada. He learned that as an aggrieved party in a long-term marriage, he would be in a much more favorable position with respect to property division and alimony if he could prove infidelity and malicious conduct on the part of his spouse. But Ezra isn't just satisfied with a legal victory. He wants a deeper kind of justice, one that allows Vivian and Mason to truly understand the consequences of their actions. Ezra paid particular attention to Mason Harlow's professional background. As an architect, Mason's reputation is crucial to his career. Utilizing her contacts in the engineering community, Ezra began quietly inquiring about Mason's professional conduct and the quality of his past projects. He discovers that Mason has recently taken on a large commercial project that is in the critical approval stage. Meanwhile, Ezra delves into Vivian's real estate business. Her success as a high-end realtor relies heavily on her connections and reputation among Vancouver's high society. If these are compromised, her career will also take a serious hit. The third part of the program involves their social circle. Ezra has compiled a list of their mutual friends, family, and important business partners. These people need to know the truth, not only about the wedding deception, but about the long-term betrayal. As Ezra puts all this information together, a clear strategy emerges in his mind. He doesn't need to take revenge through violence or direct confrontation. He can use information and timing to achieve his goals. This approach is more in line with his way of thinking as an engineer, precise, efficient, and leaves no structural weaknesses. After the one-week planning period, Ezra returned to work. His co-workers noticed that he looked a little different, more silent, more focused, with a cool determination in his eyes. But no one guessed that the respected engineer was plotting an elaborate revenge. The time is fast approaching. Vancouver's annual Architecture and Design Summit is just around the corner, and it's an important occasion for industry insiders to showcase their work and network. Ezra knew that Mason would be there to present his latest project and that Vivian would be in attendance, not only as Mason's companion, but also because the event was important to her network of high-end clients. The night before the summit, Ezra went over his plans one last time. All of the evidence has been prepared, all of the contacts have been identified, and the timetable is down to the minute. Tomorrow, Vivian and Mason's world will be turned upside down, just like they did to him. As Ezra shut down his computer and prepared to rest, he felt a strange sense of calm. This is not anger-driven vengeance, but a calm, almost transcendent sense of justice. He knew that his actions might be morally questionable, but in his mind it was a fitting punishment for those who had betrayed and deceived him. Just as he was about to leave the study, his cell phone rang. "It's Serena." "Dad?" She sounded nervous. "I need to talk to you. About Mom and about everything." Ezra took a deep breath. "Sure, honey. How about tomorrow?" "No, tonight. Now. I'm at your door." Surprised, Ezra went to the window and pulled back the curtains. Sure enough, Serena's car was parked right outside the door. He walked downstairs to open the door and found his daughter standing on the porch with a determined look on her face. "Dad?" she said as soon as she walked in the door. "I know what you're planning." Ezra kept a calm expression. "I don't understand you." "Stop pretending," Serena said seriously. "I saw the files on your computer. When I came to pick up some things I left behind last week, your planning file was still open." Ezra felt a pang of unease. He wasn't usually this careless, but recent events had obviously affected his vigilance. "So," he asked calmly, "did you come here to stop me?" Serena shook her head, a determination in her eyes that Ezra had never seen before. "No, I came here to help you." Ezra looked at his daughter in surprise. "Help me?" "Yes," Serena said as she walked into the living room and sat down. "What Mom and Mason did to you was unforgivable. But more importantly, they used me, manipulated me, and made me part of their plan. They stole an important moment that we should have shared." Her voice trembled with emotion. "I'll never forgive myself for not seeing through this." Ezra sat down next to his daughter and gently held her hand. "It's not your fault, Serena. Maybe not all," she admitted, "but I should have been more alert. Now, I want to make up for my mistake and help you uncover the truth." Ezra gazed into his daughter's eyes and saw a determination similar to his own. It's a Blackwood family trait, not flinching in the face of betrayal, but steadfastly seeking justice. "Okay," he said finally, "but you need to understand that once this program is underway, there is no turning back. This will affect a lot of people, including your mom's career and social status." Serena nodded. "I understand, but the truth needs to be revealed, regardless of the consequences." Father and daughter talked for a long time, adjusting the details of the plan and considering possible consequences and reactions. When the conversation ended, it was 2 a.m, but they both felt a decided wakefulness. "I'll see you tomorrow, Dad," Serena said before she left. "Everything will go as planned." Ezra nodded and watched his daughter leave. Tomorrow, revenge will begin. And for once, he wasn't alone. Held at the Downtown Convention Center, the Vancouver Architecture and Design Summit is an annual event that attracts professionals from across Canada and even internationally. The venue was brightly lit and crowded with a variety of booths and demo areas, showcasing the latest design concepts and architectural projects. Ezra Blackwood, dressed in a dark gray suit, stands at the entrance, his professional participation card in hand. As a senior engineer in the city's infrastructure department, his presence was unremarkable. Many of the attendees nodded their heads in greeting to him. Some stopped for a few moments of conversation, but no one sensed the storm within the usually placid engineer. He looked at his watch, 10 a.m. sharp, just about the time Mason Harlow's keynote speech was to begin. According to the plan, Vivian was supposed to sit in the front row and support her lover. Ezra and Serena, on the other hand, are each in position, ready to move at the scheduled point in time. Ezra walks towards the main lecture hall and takes a seat in the back row. On stage, Mason Harlow is passionately presenting his latest project, an eco-friendly cultural center on Vancouver Island. His demeanor is confident, his speech is smooth, and he is the complete picture of a successful architect. "This project isn't just about architecture," said Mason, his voice carrying clearly through the sound system. "It's about creating a space in harmony with nature, a place that reflects the values of our community." The audience erupted in applause. Ezra noticed Vivian sitting in the front row, wearing her favorite black suit and a proud smile on her face. She looked radiant, completely absorbed in her lover's success. The speech lasted about 40 minutes. As Mason stepped off the podium to receive praise and congratulations, Ezra quietly left the meeting and headed to the next planned location. A small conference room in the convention center has been reserved for emergency industry security discussions. The conference wasn't on the official calendar, but through Ezra's professional network, several key people received invitations, including 3 members of the building approval committee, 2 well-known structural safety experts, and several influential journalists in the industry. As the invitees filed into the conference room, they saw that Ezra was already waiting there with a serious look on his face. A young lady stood next to him, a stack of folders in her hands. It was Serena, though no one recognized her as Ezra's daughter. "Thank you all for taking the time to attend this impromptu meeting," Ezra said as he got right to the point. "I've invited you all to come because I've uncovered a serious industry issue involving public safety and professional ethics." The invitees exchanged puzzled looks, but all waited quietly for Ezra to continue. "Over the past few months, I've been investigating a number of anomalies," Ezra said, gesturing for Serena to hand out folders. "And these documents contain my findings. Hard evidence that well-known architect Mason Harlow has used safety hazardous design plans and obtained building permits through improper means." The folder contains a detailed technical analysis pointing out several structural weaknesses in Mason's recent project that could lead to catastrophic consequences under the seismic conditions common on the west coast of Canada. To make matters worse, there was also evidence of an improper exchange of benefits between Mason and a building inspector that allowed these issues to be overlooked in the approval process. Ezra took great care in preparing these materials. All technical analyses are based on publicly available information and interpreted by his expertise as a structural engineer. The evidence of misconduct, on the other hand, was legally collected through a private investigator, including records of Mason's meetings with that building inspector in informal settings and proof of the flow of funds. As an engineer dedicated to public safety, Ezra continued, "I believe these issues should be brought to the attention of the appropriate authorities immediately, especially given the size and importance of the cultural center project for which Mason Harlow is currently applying." The atmosphere in the room became tense. Members of the Architectural Approval Committee exchanged serious glances while reporters eagerly recorded every detail. Mr. Blackwood, one of the committee members, finally spoke up. "These are very serious allegations. If true, immediate action will be required. We will review these materials and conduct the necessary investigations as soon as possible." Ezra nodded. "I fully understand the seriousness of these allegations, which is why I have ensured that each one is fully supported by evidence. As engineers, our first responsibility is to ensure public safety, even if it means questioning our peers." The meeting lasted about an hour, during which Ezra answered many technical questions, demonstrating his expertise and attention to detail. No one questioned his motives. After all, Ezra Blackwood was one of the most respected members of Vancouver's engineering community, a man known for his integrity and professionalism. When the meeting ended, Ezra knew that the first phase of the program had worked. The ensuing investigation would inevitably deal a serious blow to Mason's career, and even if he was eventually able to clear up some of the allegations, the reputational damage was irreparable. However, this is only part of the plan. The second phase involves Vivian, and that requires a different strategy. At 2 p.m., Vivian is talking to potential clients in the networking area of the convention center. As a high-end real estate agent, industry events like this are a great way for her to get new clients. She was telling a couple about a mansion in West Vancouver when she barely noticed the commotion on the other side of the room. That is, until her cell phone started ringing nonstop with notifications. "Excuse me," she said to the couple. "Let me look at this first." Vivian opens her phone to find her email, social media, and text messages flooded with messages almost simultaneously. It's all inquiries from friends, coworkers, and clients, all of whom received a detailed email exposing her affair with Mason Harlow and how she manipulated her daughter into excluding her husband from the wedding in its entirety. The emails contained photos, text message logs, and a detailed timeline that irrefutably proved her infidelity and deceit. To make matters worse, the evidence was sent to her entire professional network, including senior members of real estate associations and her most important clients. Vivian felt a wave of vertigo and had to hold on to a nearby table to support herself. I need to excuse myself for a moment," she said to the confused couple before quickly walking out of the area. She tried to call Mason, but couldn't get through. As she hurried through the convention center lobby, she saw why Mason was surrounded by a group of serious people, including members of the Architectural Approval Committee and several reporters. His face was pale, his expression shocked, and he was clearly facing some sort of professional crisis. Just then, Vivian noticed Ezra standing not far away, calmly observing everything. Their eyes meet, and Vivian understands immediately. This is Ezra's revenge, carefully planned, relentless, and perfectly executed. "What did you do?" She approached him and lowered her voice to ask angrily. Ezra smiled slightly, the kind of smile that sent a chill down Vivian's spine. "I'm just exposing the truth, honey. It's like you keep telling Serena. Honesty is the most important thing, isn't it?" "You ruined my career," Vivian almost hissed. "No, Vivian," Ezra replied calmly. "It was your own behavior that destroyed your career and our marriage. I just made sure there were appropriate consequences." Just then, Serena walked over and stood next to her father. Vivian looked at her daughter in shock. "You're in on this?" she asked incredulously. Serena's eyes glistened with tears, but her voice was firm. "You used me, Mom. You led me to believe that Dad didn't care about my wedding, when the opposite was true. You stole an important moment that we should have shared just to satisfy your selfishness and vindictiveness. I'll never forgive you for that." Vivian stood there, suddenly realizing how much she had lost: her career, her reputation, even her daughter's trust and respect. And Mason, the man she gave up everything for, is too busy dealing with his own career crisis to care about her. "This isn't over," she said finally, menace in her voice. "You're going to regret this." Ezra shook his head. "No, Vivian, it's over. I've contacted a divorce attorney, and you'll be receiving the paperwork shortly. As for regrets, I think you're the one who needs to face regret." Vivian turned away, trying to maintain her dignity, but her steps were unsteady and her shoulders shook slightly. Ezra and Serena stood there, watching her back disappear into the crowd. Even though it was a victory, no one felt any real joy. It was a sad ending, a bitter end to a 27-year-long marriage. "Are you okay, Dad?" Serena asked softly. Ezra took a deep breath, feeling the complex emotions in his chest: relief, sadness, and a strange kind of peace. "I'll be fine," he said finally. "We'll all be fine." The next few weeks are going to be tough for everyone. As Ezra predicted, Mason Harlow's career took a serious hit. Although the investigation ultimately did not find enough evidence to revoke his license, his reputation was irreparably damaged, and several important clients canceled their cooperation, including that cultural center project. Vivian's situation is just as bad. The Real Estate Association did not formally penalize her, but she lost clients in droves, and social circles shunned her. More importantly, she lost her daughter's trust and respect, a loss that cannot be compensated for by professional success. The divorce proceedings went surprisingly well. Vivian had little room to argue in the face of overwhelming evidence. The property division was very favorable to Ezra, even though he didn't care about the material assets. What mattered to him was that justice was served and those who betrayed him paid the price. However, over time, the satisfaction of revenge is gradually replaced by an emptiness. Ezra finds himself often sitting at home alone, thinking about the past and the future. He won the war, but at what cost? A broken family, a ruined marriage, and time that can't be undone. 3 months later, Ezra received an email from Mason Harlow. At first, he wanted to just delete it, but some sort of curiosity made him click on the email. Ezra, the email begins. I know I am in no position to ask for your forgiveness or understanding. What I did was indefensible, and I regret it every day. But I want you to know that your revenge was successful, more successful than you probably realize. I lost my career, my reputation, and my future in this city. More importantly, I lost Vivian. Under pressure, our relationship quickly crumbled, exposing the fact that it was originally based on deception and selfishness. I think we all got what we deserved. Ezra closed the mail and felt a strange calm. He didn't want Mason's admission of wrongdoing or repentance, but knowing the other man was suffering too did bring a cold satisfaction. A few days later, Serena came to visit him. Since the day of the summit, they have grown closer, the only positive outcome of this tragedy. Daddy, she said as they shared dinner, I've been thinking about Mom. Ezra put down his fork and scrutinized his daughter's expression. What's going on? I'm angry, really angry, Serena confessed. But sometimes I feel sadness, not only for myself, but for her. She lost everything and is now alone with the consequences. Ezra sighed. He understood how his daughter felt. Despite Vivian's inexcusable behavior, 27 years of marriage is not easily erased, especially when it produces wonderful results like Serena's. You have a good heart, Serena, he said finally, and that's a good thing. Anger and vengeance may bring fleeting satisfaction, but they don't really heal wounds. It's a lesson I've only recently learned. Serena nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. Do you think it's still possible for our family to, not to go back in time, but to at least reach some kind of peace? Ezra thought about it for a long time. His plan of revenge has been successfully executed, and those who hurt him have paid the price. But has this brought real peace? He's not sure. Time will tell, he eventually replied. But for now, we need to focus on our own healing. A month later, Ezra received an unexpected invitation. His engineering team was nominated for the Infrastructure Innovation of the Year award. The celebration will be held at the same convention center, the same place where he carried out his revenge plan a few months ago. As he walked into the venue, the memories came flooding back like a tidal wave. The events of that day seemed to have happened yesterday, with every detail clearly visible. But this time, he came to the festivities as a revered engineer, not to execute a personal vendetta. Midway through the event, Ezra notices a familiar figure standing in the far corner. It's Vivian. She looked much more haggard than the last time they met, but still maintained that inherent grace. Their eyes met briefly before she quickly turned away and disappeared into the crowd. Ezra wasn't sure why she was here. Maybe it was for some new client or just happened to be at another event. In any case, he decided not to pursue it. Some stories are better left at that. That night, Ezra's team received an innovation award for the innovative techniques they applied to the Lions Gate Bridge rehabilitation project. Ironically, the very same project he missed the start of Serena's 17th birthday party 10 years ago because of his handling of it. Standing on the podium, Ezra remembers Vivian's accusation that he always puts his work first and neglects the needs of his family. Maybe in a way, she's right. Perhaps their marriage broke down not only because of her infidelity, but his own negligence. But this reflection comes too late. Some mistakes, once made, cannot be undone, and some hurts, once inflicted, cannot be healed. That's the real lesson of his revenge story. In the pursuit of justice, we can lose a part of ourselves and don't always get the fulfillment we expect. 6 months later, Ezra received a package at his home. Opening it, he found inside a photo album a collection of photographs from Serena's wedding, meticulously organized and decorated. The enclosed card reads, Dad, the day you couldn't be a part of, but I hope you can at least feel it through these photos. Love, Serena. Ezra slowly flipped through the album, feeling the joy and pleasure in each photo and the pain of his deprivation to participate in it. When he turned to the last page, he found a particular photo, Serena in her wedding dress, standing alone in the garden, with a faint sadness on her face. The bottom of the photo reads, This day will never be complete without you. Tears blurred Ezra's vision. In that moment, he realized that even though his revenge plan had succeeded in dismantling Vivian and Mason's lives, it couldn't fill the void of missing his daughter's wedding. Some losses are permanent and cannot be repaired by any form of retaliation. This is the true cost of betrayal, not just to the betrayer, but also to the betrayed. It tears apart relationships, destroys trust, and leaves wounds that can't be fully healed. Even the most perfect and successful revenge cannot truly erase that loss. A year later, Ezra stood on the balcony of his new apartment overlooking Vancouver's cityscape. He has made peace with his past, accepted the fact that he can't change it, and started a new chapter in his life. He is no longer the betrayed husband, but a stronger, wiser man. His cell phone rings. It's Serena. She and her husband plan to visit next week with their newborn baby, Ezra's first grandchild. Life moves on, with new hope and possibilities. But Ezra will never forget that lesson. When we choose the path of vengeance, we must be prepared to face all the consequences it brings, including those we did not foresee. The real victory is not in how thoroughly we punish those who hurt us, but in how we recover from the hurt, how we rebuild our lives, and what we learn from it. On that warm spring afternoon, as Ezra awaits the arrival of his daughter and grandchildren, he finally realizes that true vengeance is to live a better life than the one he had before, even if the scars remain forever. And that may be the most powerful response to those who betray us, to prove that they can't break us permanently, that they can't stop us from moving on and continuing to find beauty and meaning in our lives. This is the story of Ezra Blackwood, a father excluded from his daughter's wedding, a husband betrayed by his wife, and a man who has chosen the path of revenge. His story reminds us that the cost of betrayal is far higher than we realize for all concerned. It urges us to be thoughtful before taking action, to value those relationships that really matter, and to remain honest and loyal wherever and whenever we can. Because ultimately, every betrayal has a ripple effect that affects far more than we expect, leaving damage that may never be fully repaired. It's a story of choices and consequences, one that reminds us that even the most perfect revenge can't erase the scars left by betrayal. And that, perhaps, is the most important lesson of all. That's the end of today's story. For more captivating tales, hit subscribe and never miss an episode.